Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome back. If you are familiar with my work, you know I'm all about the elite mindset. Why? Because it is the foundation to be successful. No, it's not just about winning, although we all love to win, but being an elite athlete, being competitive is not just about winning, it's about having the ability to stay in the fight. If you are all about the result, you are more susceptible. And please change that mindset, because just focusing on the outcome will led you to a lot of letdowns emotionally and motivation. And that is why I talk so much about the elite mindset. If you are new to me, welcome. I am Patricia Boulay. I was as a competitor, I was on the WTA tour for about 18 years, had the highest singles career ranking of 26. My era of players included, but not limited to, Steffi Graf, Arajan Sanchez, Martina Hingis, Monica Seles, and that was a time when the Williams sisters were coming up. And I played in 3 Olympics, LA, Atlanta, Barcelona, and my most memorable one was in LA because I was going to UCLA at the time. After I retired from the tour, I took up coaching and worked with transitional players, went into high performance, working with national players, and transitioned onto the tour players. Then I became a mom, and mom coach, co-coach our 2 children who are on the men's and women's team at the Ohio State University. And then a few years ago, I decided to take my tennis background to another level as a challenge to myself, into public speaking, and become a performance consultant where I help players, parents, and coaches to unite and to become the best team that they can be, to help you, the player, to be the best that you can be. So, all of you have heard me talk about, the tennis journey, and certainly my tennis journey would not have been possible without the influence of my childhood coach, my dad. So what I have noticed throughout my years of competing and as a coach, as a mom coach, I noticed that elite athletes share a common ground, which I had put into 5 pillars of success. And it is only fitting that today I am bringing the coach who falls to me anyways into 2 of the 5 categories. And the 5 pillars are, passion and obsession, resiliency, accountability, and having an amazing attitude. The coach, the guest that I am bringing on today, so fortunate because he is super busy, coach of Bianca Andreescu. He is full-time with her. I'm very blessed to have him to share his time with us. I've known Sylvain for many, many years, and it hasn't changed really from the beginning to now. I see him as the passionate coach on the court, and it's not easy for him to work with all these players. When it comes to Canadian tennis, he is there. He was the Fed Cup captain. He was a national coach, and he was the face and the person behind women's tennis in Canada. And he with his 100% effort gives the opportunity, paves the way for female players who wants to make it on the international level. So I'm very excited to bring him on with us this morning. I'm gonna open the Q&A for everyone to throw in the questions. And don't forget, let me know where you're tuning in from. I am currently tuning in from beautiful Toronto. So I'm gonna bring on Sylvain. So Well, there he is. Hi, Sylvain. Welcome.
Hi, Patricia. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for taking the time from your busy day to meet with us.
My pleasure. All good.
So I understand that you just got back last night from your training.
I was in Muskoka with Bianca for the last week when the tennis was available in Ontario starting Tuesday. We started training, and yeah, beautiful place. And we're getting back into action because it's been a long, long break.
Yeah, I mean, even before this pandemic, Bianca was recovering and getting back in shape, with her tennis onto the court. So it must have been just extra hard for Bianca, for you, because as a coach, it's very frustrating to just be sitting on the side. Tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. Because actually, she's been injured, since the last tournament of the year in October. So we were hoping she was going to be ready for Indian Wells. It was a little bit tight, but the tournament got canceled. And then we're thinking, okay, maybe Miami. But then we know what happened after that. Everything got canceled. So it was very frustrating for her, for everybody on the team, because we think we were close to have her back competing after such a long break. So we, like everybody else, decided to try to get the most out of it. So she had additional break, and we said, listen, let's be optimistic. Let's be positive about it. Let's use it the right way. There's going to be no tennis. So she was for a long time, basically 2 months, not hitting the ball. But she did a lot of fitness. And, we think that maybe that would put her over the edge, as far as like being totally healthy. She's in good shape. Her knee's feeling great. So hopefully there's going to be some silver linings out of it.
Well, one we are right now, a few weeks ago when this pandemic came about, Sylvain, so I decided, instead of writing my weekly blog just sharing insights of the elite mindset, I started doing webinar, just bringing on, because I believe in preparation. During the time where we are now, there are a lot of things that athletes can do. Our audience today are parents and coaches and young players. And, so this is what I want to talk to you about today and share your insights and pick your brain a little bit, because I've known you for a long time. You've been around. I remember the first time I saw you was in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And you remain the same tenacity, because I talk a lot on my blog and my webinar about the 5 pillars of success that I had accumulated throughout my experience with players, myself, or coaching players. And like, you got to have passion with what you do, right? And you got to be obsessive with details, and then the resiliency to come back from setbacks, and being accountable for your own journey, for your own tennis, and of course to top that off with an amazing positive, the right attitude. So why I had asked you to come on the webinar, because you fit in two of those pillars for me. Even though, yes, you're a coach, but you fit in as passionate and resilient. And the reason is, you have to be passionate because you travel so much. You're always there, right? And then resiliency, elite athletes are not easy to deal with. I can say that because I know those who are watching today, they're gonna laugh, because we have our own set of minds, right? We're stubborn, and we're somewhat like to be catered to. So that's where I see you. Talk to me, talk to us about your passion, how you got that passion in coaching.
I started to get, like, my first passion actually is tennis. I'm just a fan of tennis. So even before I got into coaching, I just love hitting the balls and watching tennis on TV. I was just watching people hit at the park. I was just really passionate by the game. And then I got into the teaching, and then eventually into the coaching. And I was right up my alley. That was exactly what I wanted, because I was able to try to share my passion with other people, like get them to like tennis the way I like it. And I loved it. I just love to be able to share and like at some point I was working with like younger players, and then I moved up and played coach older players. But for me, that was the main thing, is to share this passion that I have for the game, that I have for coaching, that I have for tennis.
Well, that's certainly because that was the very first thing I saw in you. Because there are a lot of coaches out there, right? And you see that in players as well. They want to be out there for all the wrong reason. Players sometimes, I feel like, and a lot of the juniors, they're so stuck on that result. And then, they go into this emotional roller coaster. If they win, they feel great. If they don't, they feel like they're a loser, right? Type of thing. And I also feel the same way about some coaches. Like coaches, the role of coaches are defined, should be defined by your passion, trying to, using that to drive, to inspire others, right? In that passion that you have instilled, or people, you've come across juniors, any Canadian tennis in Canada. You've seen a lot. What have you seen as far as changes? Because, tennis had evolved a lot since I met you like 30 years ago, right? What do you see that is consistent of when you first started tennis coaching to now with Bianca? Is there something in the mindset that creeps up that you've noticed?
Well, I mean, the games has evolved and things have changed for sure. I started to work, for example, like in the 90s, I was working with Marie-Ève Pelletier. She was a junior, and I worked with her when she was the same age as Bianca, but that's like basically more than 25 years ago. And if I can compare not just Marie-Ève and Bianca, but how things have changed, I feel things are, and we need to be careful with this, because I'm not sure it's a good thing, but it gets more serious way more quickly than what I remember back in the day. And as much as you want to be, if you're passionate, you want to be spending time on the court, and you want to be doing what you need to do to get better. And if you have dreams and goals, whatever they are, it's important to do what you need to do. I feel sometimes that people, from what I've seen, like it gets too much of a business. And I think this is very important if you're passionate. And even if you have really high expectations, really high goals, and you're in this journey and you want to see where you can go with it and get the best you can be, like it needs to be fun. It needs to be cool. It needs to be something you want to do. And it's a business, but you got to be really careful about that, not to make sure like too serious.
Well, but also though, when, there's statistically, there's like less than 1% of the tennis population actually makes it on the tour, and I've always said, it's funny enough, I still believe that, when you play, you want to be the best you can play. Like, as a junior, right? Before they started this, like competing at national level, it was all about fun, right?
Correct.
It was all about fun. And at some point it changes with the, pandemic that we are now. This is what I foresee, right? Nobody knows when tennis is going to come back. And, when it comes back, it's going to have a drastic change for sure, right? It's going to be a lot harder for people to travel. It was already expensive before. I mean, just the other day, I heard about airlines going to jump up 40%, right? So that's going to make it so difficult. And the players who are on the cusp of, maybe going pro or not, they may just detour and then take on the college route, which makes the basket for coaches, college coaches to pick are big. But then that means the level of the players have to be very high. And as we all know, UTR is widely used by the college coaches. And that is why I do with these series is preparation matters, is to get the parents and coaches and players start now. If you're 13, perfect, you have time. And if you're 17, obviously that's a lot harder. So with the evolution of the mindset of players, which I believe is the same, like Bianca, when I first saw her, I think Bianca was 14, right? You could see she had passion for her tennis. Right. And for you had the passion to be a coach, and that comes through. what would you suggest to parents, right? And things going to get harder when they go to tournaments, because ultimately parents are the ones that's going to take if the player's not with the federation, parents are going to be the one that's taking them to tournaments. What would your suggestion be from the coach recommendation of helping the player to stay calm when they compete?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer your question right away. The first thing I want to say is, like, even if there's a pandemic right now and competing is put on hold, and as you said, we're not sure when it's going to come back. We're not sure how it's going to come back. And it might be complicated for us to get into that mode of competing because of like the airfare and all of that and the security reasons. The first message I would like to say is, like, even if there's an unknown there that we don't know when the first match, the next tournament is, I know a lot of people are driven by those objectives. Okay, I've got a tournament to prepare to. Like, it's in 3 weeks. I've got this provincials. I've got this qualifying for nationals. I've got this national tournaments, ITF, whatever that is, a local tournament at the club. It's very important right now because that's not there. And I have that with Bianca. Bianca is a little bit like this. She loves to have a target. And a lot of athletes are like this. They need to have like that little goal that gets them going and make them wake up and go and do the hard work and all of that. Even if they love tennis, it's still, to do the hours and do the fitness. And I want to say that right now, it's very important for everybody, even if it's not there, to find a way to stay very highly motivated, even if you've been away from the court, because as you said, there's a lot of things that can be done. And now we're able to go back on the court. It's going to be different the way we're going to train. It's not going to be exactly the same. Things are going to evolve from weeks, months. It's going to change. But it's very important right now, even if you don't have that nationals, you were hoping to do whatever result in August or provincials, it's very important. It's very telling if you're able to go about your tennis and do what you need to do and keep improving, because it's very possible. It will come back one day and you want to be ready. You want to have done what you need to do.
Right. That's great advice. Now, with the uncertainty of the returning of competition and even courts opening up to its maximum capacity, would you suggest coaches, players, and parents, they work on specific things, like fitness, for example, right? Should they be looking at something specific or general?
Well, that's the way we've approached it. Okay, since we don't know, we said, okay, because I'm going to take Bianca as an example, because obviously she's my main mission right now. I do other things, but like we said, okay, so we have this break, we have this moment, we're not sure when you're going to play again. We want to use this so when you come back, you're in the best shape you've ever been. Okay, you're going to be in great shape, but we don't know. Is it in 2, 3, 4 months? Is there going to be tournament this year? We don't know. So we need to be wise. There's an unknown. We need to deal with this and be aware of it. So we cannot start now and go full training, go hard, because you're not going to be able to do that maybe for 4 months. So you need to be. So we've been going like, you work hard, you have a little bit of a rest again, and you can't try to build it for motivation purpose, for a bunch of reasons. So I would say that, yes, it's possible to do specific. I mean, it would be a good time now if, that slice back end of yours has always been a liability, to go and work on it, or your second serve, whatever that is, or your fitness. Because if there's one thing in this pandemic where we cannot go on the court as much or the same way we've been able to, fitness, it was possible to do what you need to do. I mean, differently, but it was possible. So I would say for sure that the fitness aspect needs to be a priority, definitely.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree. So what I want you to put on your, go back on memory lane when you were working with a lot of the Canadian stars, Jeannie and Francoise and the whole group. What do you normally do when they go through tough times? How do you keep them? How do you speak to them? Because ultimately, as an athlete, whatever level, you are going to deal with tough times, whether it's injuries or setback from results or something. What do you say to them?
Well, I've evolved as a coach. Everybody, we evolve as persons, so you evolve as a coach, and athletes will evolve as athletes. So as a coach, my approach has changed for sure over the years. I'm not sure if it's experience for sure. I gained a little bit of wisdom, parenthood, I'm not sure, but all of that combined, I don't approach things exactly the way I used to do when I was 30, because I'm a lot older than that now. So I've learned to understand that most athletes are pretty hard on themselves. They're very high demanding. They expect a lot. They very often put some kind of pressure on their shoulders, and they have expectations, and they're hard on themselves. And my approach, maybe in my younger years as a coach, I was very passionate, but if things were not going the way I wanted to be, anyway, results, like whatever that was, effort, but I was a little bit harder than I am now. I find out that like what they need is understanding. They need to feel supported with what they're going through, whatever that is. They need to feel that you're there for them no matter what. You're going to be supportive. You're going to tell them what it is nicely because you care about that person. So you're not going to just say yes, or you're going to really say what you feel, but in a way where they know that you have their best interest in mind, and it's to help them. So I would say that I've grown to be more lenient, more open-minded, a little bit more listen, and very supportive, caring, and really help them through this person, feel that they have someone to rely on, because tennis is not easy. There's some really hot, there's some really great moments, and there's some tougher moments. That's why I'm an advocate of saying, like, you got to be careful not to make it, to use roller coaster earlier in the conversation, not to make it too much of a roller coaster. When I win a match, I'm ecstatic. It's incredible. When I lose a match, it's the end of the world. You try to, we're talking these days about flattening the curves, right? With the pandemic, you got to do this to flatten the curves with your tennis as well. You don't go high so much when you win and so low when you lose, that sort of thing. So try to keep it a little bit more like balanced.
Right. What do you considered as like a victory day as a coach? Because like as players, we go and everyone define victories differently. Some define victory as holding the cup. Some define victories as like they battle after 5-10 match points come back. So everyone define it differently. So you as a coach, how do you define your victory day?
Okay, well, so I'm very competitive. So obviously, when you're at a tournament, I prefer that there's good results than not good results. But I'm more interested, and I find out that this is how you get your results, because that's the end goal. It's to like really the process. So to really the priorities are like, what do you need to do to make it possible for you to increase your chance that things go well for you in this tournament, for example, if we're talking in a tournament situation. So as a coach, what makes a victory day is to be able to go on the court, enjoy what we do it with intensity, do it with quality, do it with purpose, and feel we're getting something. For me, that's the main thing. So a victory day can be at a tournament, but it can also be on a practice day right now when there's no tournaments for a few months, So did I have some good victory day last week? Yes, when we were training, because we had some really good days of practice where, we were able to combine hard work, really, really hard work, but a lot of fun, and go off the court and feel good about the practice because, as a coach, I'm trying to get my player to get better at something. And she would just tell me after the practice, I'm feeling it. I'm getting there with this shot. That for me, that's a victory day. And to help her go there the next day and do it again and do it with the same, intensity. For me, that was the most important thing.
Absolutely. I love those. I love those stories with victory days because they come so far in between. They don't come often. Okay, let's talk about resiliency from your worst day as a coach. How do you bounce back? Like, give me a general idea. What would be considered a really, really tough day for you? It could be, anything, because as coaches, we all have our tough days, and then we have to, I don't know about you, but there in the beginning of my coaching career, I put my heart and soul just like I always would in everything. And, there was one moment where I felt crushed, and then, and I turned away from coaching for a little bit, but, I had to find my way back. So have you ever gone that far?
No.
Okay.
But no, but yes, there's been a lot of setbacks. There's been, like I was talking about the victory days and those days where like everything's super, but there's been tough days for sure. That's part of the journey, and you got to be ready for that. You got to, I mean, you'd like to limit those and make sure that there's not as many as, but they're part of the journey, and you're going to need to deal with them. So, that goes back a little bit what I was saying, not to get too high, not too down as much as possible. But I mean, recently, I mean, Bianca had some injuries, some big ones, and she's had quite a few. So so it has been difficult. I mean, it's difficult for her first and foremost. She's the player and everything. But me as her coach, it's not easy when something happened and she's sidelined, I'm sidelined, but I feel that try to stay positive and go back to like. But you need, that's when you need support too around you to help you go through these tough moments. But it's very easy from the outside to feel like oh, everything is always great for Serena, for example, or for Roger, but they also have a lot of tough days. And one of the reasons why they're so good is because of that resiliency and being able to overcome it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of players, a lot of coaches and parents, they always, unfortunately, all that gets televised is the cherry on top, isn't it? How they do these great shots and, how they're having a great time. It is, I personally feel like, I like behind the scene, because that's when things happen 90% of the time, that there are a lot of tears and pain and sufferings that go into the making of the elite athlete. From if you will go back onto when you a few years back, when you look at juniors, right? Do you what do you see in the juniors where, because I do that, you may not, but I do that when I go to tournaments, right? I'm like, wow, that one. Wow, that one. It's just a profiling. It's natural for us to do that, right? Because we're passionate with what we do. So what do you see? What do you, that you see as certain traits like, wow, that's the one?
Well, I mean, from, a couple of things, but if we're going into a situation where I'm walking at a tournament and a junior tournament, because I still do that and I still love that, go to watch the junior plays. And if there's a bunch of matches and I'm looking a bit left and right and everybody's like playing and stuff like that, like the first thing, and that doesn't mean that's the most important thing, but that's probably the easiest thing for me to do, but to look is I'm going to look at who's able to, with the racket and the ball, to be smooth, relaxed, fluid, and just play with ease. That's the first thing that catch my attention as a coach now. It didn't used to be the case a few years ago, but now like that easiness, And so this is one thing that I totally, from a technical standpoint, that will be the first thing on my list, way more than the grip, way more than how they prepare on their backhand and that sort of thing. Then I like to look, I mean, because I love that part, is like the attitude on the court, like how they carry themselves, like their presence, their aura, how they respond to mistakes, how they respond to good shots, how they handle themselves and stuff like that. So that will be just that energy that goes out of the players. I'm very aware of it. I'm very interested in this. And there's so many things you can look. Even now, more than I used to, I like to now look at really like what they're all about, from the how they play the game, how they create things, how they build the point, and how they're going after opponent weakness? Are they using their weapons? So this whole aspect. So that's general speak, but those are the three things that really catch my attention.
Yeah, attitude to me, as you know, is the number one make it or break it, because I've seen so many players, they work so hard, but that attitude, drop of attitude, and it's a very, very difficult thing for many, because if it was easy, then everyone would be like top 10, right? When you go, I remember watching, I just happened to be there with the for when you were working with Bianca in Indian Wells. She had a really tough, well, she had like three setters and then you came on and we could hear it. I loved it when you said to her, this is why you work so hard for, you love this. You were encouraging her to love pressure, and that is huge. So how did you learn that, lingo?
Well, first of all, that's what it is. It comes down to this. If you're whatever level you're aspired to be as a tennis player, you got to welcome challenges. They're part of your journey. I mean, they should be actually what you want. I mean, it's cool to win a match really easily when everything goes right and you're playing so well. I mean, yes, it's fun. But you gotta embrace that, the fact that you want to play tennis and compete with tennis, and you want to enjoy fights. To go out there against someone who has the same aspirations as you, who wants to be also very good, and is so. So I try to bring it back with her to that. We've discussed this. This is what you want. You like to go out there and compete. You like to win. Yes, of course. But you got to understand that you're going to need to overcome some challenges when you're on the court. And it's not like getting mad or withdrawing from them, or like, you got to go and face them and do it with purpose, and not try to just move away from it. So when I spoke to her, it was about this in that moment. And it was, yes, there were a couple of things. You only have a minute and a half sort of to talk. And yes, I could have said, you got to play more on her backhand, or you got to do this more with your forehand and stuff like that. Serve her more like this way. There was a lot of things that I was watching in the match that I felt could make it a bit easier from her from a tactical standpoint to maybe go and get that win. But for me, in that moment, the most, if there was one thing I wanted to stress and get her back, leaving the chair and go back with that in mind, was this, to try to give her a little bit of energy. And it goes back to what I said earlier in our conversation. The players need to feel support, need to feel they've got someone like around them that help them through this. And that's what I tried to do in that moment. Yes.
Yeah. Talking about pressure, I was very fortunate. I didn't have many coaches throughout my career, but I was very fortunate when I played team tennis, had Billie Jean King as the captain, right? And I was having a rough day on court in practice, and then, in a conversation, and she said to me, Patricia, pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
So that just really stuck with me throughout my entire career.
Yes.
And we sometimes forget, and having great attitude is crucial to handling pressure, for sure.
It's
right
key. It's key.
It is key. How I sense that with the fast rising of Bianca, with this incredible record that she's jumped through the hoops on that ranking so fast. I can't stop to think like the amount of pressure that must be facing her, not only her but also on you, because now all eyes are on you both. So how are you handling that pressure, and how are you helping Bianca to handle that pressure?
You're right, because that was a really quick rise. And it was like she just burned every steps basically from her ranking to where she is now. And it was not one of those like progressive journey where you learn as you go from a year to another and you get to understand a bit what it's all about. It was just thrown at us very quickly. I'm totally aware of this, everything you just said, of course. But I'm trying to go back to what I can control, and what I can control right now as a coach is to try to stick to my values, do what I've done so far, and keep progressing and reevaluating and maybe make some adjustment, but stay who you are, who I am as a coach. And things have been very different for me and way more for Bianca. She used to go to a tournament and totally the unknown, and it was difficult to get 2 cans of balls, that sort of things, to now she goes to a tournament and it's a totally different scenario. I really feel that she and I and other people around the team, including her parents and, everybody, like, we need to remember where we're coming from. Okay. What is the, what's our root, where we're coming from, the hard work that's been done. And yes, and stay grounded. I think it's very important that, and not get into that spiral of like, so this is very important. And I know now her status has changed, and she used to go on the court and be a bit of the underdog, and, and now it's going to be totally different. The same for me. There's expectations from everybody. But, I'm going to go back to what we can control and try to do that right.
That is such a big key though, Sylvain. It's having the right team around you, because I remembered many years ago when the Davis Cup Canada played Sweden. Do you remember that? Like Daniel Nestor beat
Edberg.
Thank you. Beat Edberg. And then the first thing I thought to myself was, wow, this is so huge. And I said to Eve, I just hope his team could help him through that. Because what people don't realize, that the amount of pressure that comes with success, and if you don't have the right team, a solid team to ground you, like to bring you back to the roots, it's easy, because the tennis world, it's a fairy tale world.
That's right. And going back to the conversation earlier where you said, oh, what do you think have changed a little bit, between now and, when you started 20, 30 years ago and stuff like that. And I said, okay, it's more serious now. It's more business. And then there's a lot more money, and there's a lot and stuff like that. And there's, but you got to be really, really careful with all of that.
But that's also, right? That's also set the athletes apart, the ones that are just doing it for the glory versus the competitor, because the competitor will reset. I feel that's what I feel. With the competitor, we all have goals for sure, right? I want to get into the Grand Slam. I want to get to quarters or semis and so forth. Bianca didn't have those steps. She just went and won it. Right? So it's even more important. And for everybody who's listening now, it's, where you arrive is not the end. When you get there, you got the reset to be a better version of yourself every single day. Right?
And totally. And get there is one thing, stay there is another. We've heard that many times. So, you become a target for everybody. And and then there's a lot of things that comes with it, because there might be a bit of a tendency to start enjoying the view when you're getting a bit up on that mountain. It's a bit of human nature, like to start to say like, okay, I can start enjoying the view now a little bit. You got to be really careful with that. Very careful with that. So that's where it's important, and that's where there's coaches and parents, because I think parents have a huge role to play like this, and that's at every level. That's, we've been thinking, Bianca, with, but like, even I can do totally, like, I can see the same sort of like patterns with a kid winning a provincial at some point, or a national, and feeling like, oh, it's at every level.
Right. You've been, like as we said earlier, you've been with a lot of players throughout the years, and, you've been with younger players in your younger years, and then teenagers, and of course now in a completely different environment. Have you ever come across, because the biggest thing now is that I hear that from a lot of coaches and parents, the focus is an issue. Focus, because they're so distracted with their phones. Have you had to deal with that?
Yes, it's normal. I mean, like, we gotta stop thinking that the like they go through the same thing. They have the same, and we tend to think, oh, everything's so great for them. And no, they have the same difficulties, the same challenges, even more sometimes. But yes, with, Bianca is only 19, and not long ago she was 17. And that's part. I mean, this, you mentioned the phone and the internet and like all of that. It's part of it. Like social media is one thing, and there's some benefits from it for sure. There's a lot of advantages, but there's some disadvantages, and there's some not so good sides from it. And this is part of our conversation. How to do, and again, the parents, and I do that with my daughter. So you don't need to be a tennis player anyway, just to say one aspect of it. But definitely, yes.
What about nutrition? How hard are you working on that now compared to before, this journey into the elite?
Yeah. Well, I must say, I got to give a lot of credit to Bianca on like, she's a good student. She wants to learn, she's been very vocal, for example, about her meditation and, and the benefit from it and stuff like that. But I must say, like, I'm super surprised. I'll go back to nutrition. Like I was very surprised when we started, like, if a physio tell her these are the exercise you need to do 3 times a day, she'll follow it to the T. She's very good with this. And she's the same with nutrition. She really cares about nutrition. She's really involved with her nutrition, interested by it. So that's, as she's got, with the years, she's been even, I would say, even more, precise with it. But definitely it's a key factor these days, for everybody, no matter, you don't need to be a top ranked professional player. Nutrition is very important. She has the advantage to be working with a good nutritionist, and she's tried a few things. She's done some experiments, find out what works for her, what's not works as much for her. But I would say this is, if you're trying to perform in sport, nutrition is part of it. You cannot pretend it's not.
Yeah, I in fact, last night, a fitness coach sent this amazing suggestion. It's on Netflix. It's called The Game Changer by Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic. You're listening, parents, players, coaches. I hope you have a chance. Go on Netflix. The Game Changer is fantastic. It's a little long, but it's very interesting. And they talk about the nutrition on there very seriously for anybody who's serious in their performance. It was fantastic, right? Stretching, right? The physical side, not only are players faster, more mobile and stronger, but I have also noticed in the last 5 years or so that players are taking stretching into a completely different level.
True. It's incredible when you go in the gym at the tournaments and you look at Djokovic, Murray, whoever, I can name anybody. It's incredible the time they spend with, like, dynamic stretching, stretching, whatever. It's a big part because you got to prepare your body to be able to take the load. So yes, you need to go in the gym and get stronger and more powerful and agile and all of that. But you want to be, and go back to, like, you want to be loose also. You don't want to get too stiff, and because then injuries can happen more easily. And I'm mesmerized to see how much players are spending so much time, like, stretching themselves, keeping themselves loose, and it's very, very key. That's something that I've never been good with myself as a person, and I'm working on this now because I look around and say, like, listen, that's got to be part of it. I'm not a tennis player, but just as someone who's trying to be in good health and fit. So I think definitely I see a huge rise there.
Okay, so I remembered when I was at a tournament, right? And I would see you, I don't know, on court with players at early, 8, 7, I don't know, throughout the day. And then, we'll go, and then we'll come back to the hotel. And there's always usually a very nice gym at these hotels that we stayed at. And then who do I pass is Sylvain Bruneau. Do you still do that? Do you still work out?
I do. I mean, for me, I do. It's just something I've done for a long time, and uh, it's my moment too. It's kind of my moment because at the tournament it's busy. There's a lot of things going on and stuff like that. And I find that when I find myself and I go for a jog or for a bike ride or whatever I do in the gym, and I feel it's like a moment I used to get, I think, it's a moment that I am with myself, and I really enjoy that. It's not meditation, but it does it for me.
Well,
So
it is your you time. It's you
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Right? I mean, you got to get away. And with the audience we have today, I don't know how familiar they are at tournaments, but when player goes to a tournament for the practice, it's a zoo. It's a
Very
complete
draining.
zoo, right?
Very draining.
It is draining. It is
Yeah.
emotionally draining. So
Yes.
you have to find a way to let go of this energy, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How much are you still learning from others? Because learning for me is, it's up there with attitude. You got to have a good attitude and you got to keep learning. In a lot of people's eyes, wow, Sylvain, I mean, he got, with Help Bianca, get up there. Are you still learning?
Yes. Yes. More than ever.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yes, definitely. I used to read a lot, and and I think you had Leila Fernandez on one of your webinars, and I'm not she told me she was there, and she was telling me one time that she's right now reading a lot of biography or about on the internet about other players in other sports, champions like Crosby, Pele, like whatever, soccer, box, anything that just to learn. I used to do that. I used to read a lot of books, biography on politicians, whatever, different fields, just to see, okay, what make them special, what happened to them, why are they like. So I used to do that a lot. I don't do that as much now. What I do is I like to go and just analyze things and get a lot of it. I like to converse and share with my colleagues, other coaches and stuff like that. But I really believe that learning, you can never get tired of it, and it's part of your journey. The moment you think that you got it all, that you've seen it all, and you're all good, that's dangerous. So I'm not there at all. There's still a lot of learning to do.
It's fascinating for me speaking with coaches, right? Because, I throughout my 18, 20 years as a competitor, I gathered this information of the elite mindset. And then now being more exposed more to coaches, I find that the pillars of success are very similar. So, which means to me, it doesn't matter what field that you choose to go to. The foundation of these pillars, you had, like you said, you got to be passionate. It's when you're passionate with what you're doing, time flies. You don't mind putting the hours in. It's whatever it takes. If it's 20 hours a day, you're gonna be there 100% of your day until you hit the pillow, and then you're completely out. And then and I saw that in you. I still see that in you. The passion is what drives you into getting yourself to be a different level, because now more than before, I mean, you were exposed. I mean, you traveled so much. You traveled internationally. You saw the juniors, you saw the best. It's a touch and go. But would you say now you had to learn the language of the top 5 players, because they have different languages?
Yeah, and I'm still learning that, because to be honest, it's not like we've been there for a long time. So it's a new adventure. It's a new chapter for me, this whole experience right now. So I'm not gonna sit here pretend like, yeah, I got a good grasp on everything. I'm totally handling things like no, they're still learning. There's still adaptation. There's still question marks. There's still a lot of that. But I'm trying to go in there, keep my head low and advance, and stay focused and keep my priorities in check, and not be swirled with all the excitement and stuff like that. It's way, way, way worse for Bianca. Okay, let's face it, because she's the one who's way more in the spotlight. But I want to do my part to help her, and I want to keep do what I want to keep. We still have objectives we've not achieved. You know, it's not like everything's done. So it's never going to end.
Yeah.
It's never going to end. There's always going to be things as a coach and as a person, because I think that's both are together. Who you are as a person, who you are as a coach. It's not two distinct element. There's still things to learn all the time, and that's what makes it interesting in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, without growth, we're going to stagnate, right? We don't
Yes.
stay the same. You're going to go down. You either go down, or you go up. You don't stay the same.
And I see a lot of people who are in that quest. I see a lot of people who are in that quest. Like I see so many parents come to me and they ask good questions. They have good comments, and I feel they want to expand. They want to understand things. They want to have another side of it and stuff like that. And for sure, that's the way it should be.
Okay, so now, what would you say when you put your experiences of your, up-teens years of coaching, right? What to put in a package nicely may not be easy for our audience, who have players who are like 13, 12, or maybe younger in that age. We're not talking about, because not everybody's going to turn pro. I mean, the destiny, who knows, right? What would your suggestion be like to get them with that elite, to be in the elite performer? What would they work on?
Listen, I think the aspect I mentioned, what I look for, the first thing on the court, correct me if I'm not answering exactly when you asked me earlier, like when you go and you watch kids on the court and stuff like that, from a tennis perspective, just from the game perspective, I think that's very important. I see a lot of kids still who are trying to, less is more sometimes in the way you hit the ball, just how you so I think this is, if I look at the top players now in the top 100, for example, on the women's tour, they have different techniques. They're like, but you get that easiness. It's pretty much their different level, but for everybody. And I would say that as a coach, and even, I would tell the players, go out there and develop that looseness, that easiness, so you're able to get some good action on the ball, some good pop on the ball, so you get some really good quality. This is very important. You see that with all the top players, okay? So you don't want to muscle your way through there. So, and I think there's a lot of work to be done there. So that's the message I try to convey a lot when I talk to other coaches. But, and obviously the attitude is it's there. Like if you're trying to get into that elite block, you got to think a certain way, you got to act a certain way, and there's no way around it.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a question from Jose. I understand Bianca has found the use of mental imagery helpful in her preparation for competition. Can you comment on the benefits of this type of mental training for players?
It's super, super, super important. She has this story, for example, because I think that's related to the question. She has this story when she was 15. She wrote her check. I'm not part of that. That's not me. That's her. She wrote herself a check like she won the U.S. Open. I think people are like, she was 15. She had won the Orange Bowl. There was no money. They gave her a ball with oranges in it. It was totally different. And she wrote that day, she wrote herself a check as the winner of the U.S. Open. For me, it's like people say, what a coincidence that, that not 4 years later, she won the tournament. I don't think it is. I think it's part of that imagery. So she does that. She sees herself get to a certain place, and I think it's a very, very important part of her success. And she's not been shy about it. She's been very vocal about it. So I would say definitely this imagery is very important to her. I will text her sometimes and I'll say, let's go for a walk. I want to talk to you, wherever. And she'll say, well, can we do it in 30 minutes? I've got this and this and this, meaning imagery. I got it. So she's really, really focus on it, and she's very good with it. And I would say it's a big, big part of her success. And I have nothing to do with it. It's not me, and it's not me at some point telling her she should do that. It came, I think her mom helped her, and I'm sure, you know, but it's really something she's done, and that's been very, very crucial with her success.
You know, that taking on to what you need to do is my third on my pillar of success is accountability. There are certain things as an athlete you have to lead, you have to want. No, you know, if you have to be told every step of the way, you're not accountable for, you're not going to go far. You know, I met Bianca when she was 15, and I remembered it was in Gatineau at the Players Lounge, and you know, everyone was just sitting around because it was so hot outside. She was the only one had a book, reading a book. I mean, the book was so thick, you know, and that's how I got to know her. So learning is in her mind. You know, she understands the vision. She understands, you know, being accountable for your own journey. And that's what I see a lot in elite athletes, you know, that the ones that are not just willing to do the work, but the willing to be dedicating their tennis journey, not 1 foot out, 1 foot in, but both feet dive in. No matter what, you're gonna do it. And that's what I'm sensing. I'm sensing that in you as a coach as well. You dive in with both your feet. I've seen the effort you have put in your tennis journey as a coach.
And that's actually, it's funny you use this, you know, both feet dive with, you know, because you know, we have this thing when I speak to Bianca, I've told her many times, you go in that arena, it's not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's both feet in the arena. This is how it's done. So yeah, both feet in. I agree with that.
Both feet in. So, well, thank you, Sylvain. You know, on behalf of the audience, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your busy schedule and to share your insights. We wish you, you and Bianca, the best of luck, and I'll hope to see you at a tournament soon, sooner than later.
Hopefully, for all of us. It was a pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Patricia. Bye-bye.
All right. So fortunate. I hope everybody got a takeaway from Sylvain. I certainly did. How to handle pressure. You know, he's looking at when he goes to the courts, he look at somebody who is hitting with ease, and that is what a lot of the juniors do, is they think like harder. It's not, hitting hard is not about forcing, it's about rhythm. You know, looking at player, not on their best days, but on the bad days, how they have a great attitude to come out from that is what a lot of the coaches look at, and those are some of the traits of having elite mindset. I want to thank you all for joining me in this morning. It's beautiful outside. I know it's difficult to stay in there, but I will continue, and the journey continues because we are in a lockdown almost. We can't fly anywhere, and learning is a very big part of my belief, and even more so is preparation matters. So when the dust settles, I am hoping you're getting a lot out of the webinars that I'm presenting from the elite mindset, and fly with it. To continue our preparation matters. So happy. Probably don't even need to introduce our next guest, but what better fitting than a mother coach that we're going to be bringing on next week, Judy Murray, mother of Andy and Jamie Murray. It will not be on Saturday. It will be on Sunday because we're trying a few things. I'm trying to reach as many people as I can because I think, the insights being delivered are invaluable. They're just so, and I need you to be able to share that, and you can share that and just pass it on because that's what we're doing. Sharing is caring. So share the information, share the videos. If you were not able to join in on the other webinars, there are recordings on my website, patriciahe.com. And if you want to contact me, And these are my email address here, patricia@patricia.com. I'm on Instagram, and and you can find me on LinkedIn, and I've just got myself on the Twitter. And I wish everyone a fantastic rest of the weekend. Enjoy, be safe, and look for the invite or link for my next guest, Judy Murray. So have a wonderful weekend.